Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, Aleš, to share some thoughts with you. India-Slovenia share a very warm and a very friendly relationship, which has been progressively strengthened over the past many years. As a matter of fact, next year we will be celebrating 35 years of the establishment of diplomatic ties between India and Slovenia. And all through these years, our friendship has only grown stronger. In the economic sense, I would say that India and Slovenia are rediscovering each other. In the last 5 years alone, just to give you an example, Indian exports to Slovenia have grown by 16 times at about $6 billion now. This is based on Slovenian statistics. So you can see how the entire trajectory of this relationship is today on a very positive and a very upward trend. And all this has happened before the India-EU FTA has been announced. So the trajectory is very positive, the history is very positive, but I do believe that the potential to take this to a higher level is even greater.
So which are the key Indian investments in Slovenia, and are there any new joint projects being developed?
There are two-way investments in each other's sides. A lot of Slovenian companies are present in the Indian market, some with larger investments, with production portfolios. Some are there to explore the Indian market, having joint ventures. But I presume that this trajectory of Slovenian investments in India is going to increase. As you are aware, India is today one of the hottest destinations for FDI anywhere in the world, and a lot of value for money, a big market and a very low cost production venue for exporting to the world. So I anticipate more Slovenian interest going into India as compared to what it is at present. As far as the Indian companies are concerned, there are no major investments as of now in Slovenia so far. But just as I was saying, if you look at the trajectory of our growing exports into Slovenia, I am quite hopeful that this is going to create a basis for a more compelling case for Indian businesses to look at Slovenia as a basis for expansion into the wider European market.
So you think that this free trade agreement that was agreed between European Union and India will speed this process up, and also how will Slovenia benefit from this, maybe in regards to India?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, the India-EU FTA is a game changer. That's very, very clear. My Prime Minister Modi, called it a historic achievement. It has also been called the mother of all trade deals. Yeah. And it is not difficult to see why. This FTA brings together 2 billion people in the world with a combined market value of over $24 trillion. India and Europe, which is the 4th largest economy and the 2nd largest economy, together account for about 1/4 of global GDP and 1/3 of all global trade. So by all accounts, this is a big deal. The India-EU FTA is bringing together these very large, diverse and complementary economies and creating one framework. And going forward, the impacts on bilateral trade and investment are going to be very huge. How does Slovenia benefit? Well, all Indian exports, current Indian exports to the EU under this FTA will become tariff-free on day one. What that means for Slovenian businesses is lower input costs. You can import more and low cost, high quality products from not just finished products, but inputs from India at a much lower cost. So that helps your bottom line here. On the other side, about 96% of all European exports into India will either get tariff free or will have a substantial tariff reduction in a phased manner. So again, if you are in a Slovenian company, you are looking at a market to export, your costs of exporting to India will go down substantially. European Commission expects that European exporters will save around 4 billion euros in duties alone annually under this FTA. So the benefits for the Slovenian companies, both for importing more from India and to exporting more to India, are quite obvious.
So maybe which sectors, like specifically, do you think will benefit? One is, I think, as I have looked at the numbers, is the automotive sector. Which which other as well in regards to the Slovenian economy?
Yeah, so that really, that question obviously depends upon the competitiveness of the local economic sectors. If you look at the current trade basket, the two of the biggest items we have, one is organic chemicals and the second is pharmaceutical ingredients, right? And then comes the automotive components, engineering goods. All these sectors, I believe, have huge potential because even though our numbers are growing at a very fast clip, my own perception is that we haven't really scratched the surface. So, and also sectors such as textiles, leather, footwear, agro and food products where India has an advantage. These are all opportunities not just for India, but for Slovenia to, after all, if you can import better products at lower quality, it helps the market as well.
Let's say a hypothetical scenario. I would be a Slovenian businessman. I would come to you, and how would you pitch your country to me for me to invest into your country?
Okay, I think it's only fair to say, and as a Slovenian business, even if you are coming to me for the first time, you would have noticed the rise of India is one of the defining stories of our time. Never before in human history has a democratic free market economy grown by so much and grown so fast, right? If you look at the figures, India in the last 10 years alone, only in one decade, has gone from being the 11th largest economy to the 4th largest economy now in the world. We are on track to become the 3rd largest, hopefully in a couple of years. Our current GDP of $4.3 trillion is expected to grow to $7.3 trillion by 2030. So these are secular statistics which tell you that it is a huge market which is growing at perhaps at the fastest pace among all comparable economies in the world. If you are a Slovenian company looking to invest, you have not just a massive and a growing market at your disposal if you are in India, but you also have a very highly developed ecosystem of manufacturing, one of the world's most developed ecosystem for R&D, which the world over is now utilizing, and to use that base not just to tap the Indian market, but to actually export to the whole world. So if you are a Slovenian business, my pitch to you is look at the Indian market, but more importantly, look at India as a springboard for the world.
So do you think in this regard how India is now positioning itself in the world economy, is it maybe starting to compete with China, who was before known as a global factory? Do you think it is going in that direction or not?
I think it is a bit, I would take it the other way. Rather than looking at it as a competition with this economy or that economy, the statistics, the numbers clearly indicate that India is growing, already is one of the leading manufacturers of the world. Since we were talking about some of the Slovenian companies, you are very strong in, let's say, pharmaceuticals. If you look at the pharmaceutical sector alone, because that is again one of the sectors of interest to Slovenia. Today, India's pharma industry is ranked 3rd in the world by volume, right? Growing very, very fast. More importantly, it has one of the world's most highly developed manufacturing ecosystems. We are the world's largest exporter of vaccines. We are the world's largest exporter of generic drugs. If you look at manufacturing alone, there are more than 1,400 WHO GMP certified plants in India, manufacturing. You have, by some accounts, the largest number of US FDA approved manufacturing pharmaceutical plants in India outside the US, the largest number, right? So this manufacturing story, rather than pitching it as a story of a competition, I think the story is already taking place. India already presents as an opportunity for Slovenia, like I said, to look at doubling up their R&D, having partners in India, and looking at this capability, not just to tap the growing Indian market. After all, if you are a pharma company in Slovenia, and let's say if you are in cardiovascular disease management or lifestyle diseases, India is going to be a very big market for you as well.
So if we take into account the free trade agreement with Europe, and on the other hand, what the United States is doing now with tariffs, and they're trying to protect their economy, but also in a way like strong arm any other. Do you think that agreements such as this, as the free trade agreement with India and Slovenia, is actually like a sort of hedge or insurance for economies in this globalized world that they can function together and grow together, not like being set apart and globalization taking a step back?
My perspective would be that we live in a world of great instability and uncertainty. That is quite clear. The global system, the assumptions behind the global system that all of us have taken for granted are increasingly under question. In this scenario, both Europe and India, we are complementary economies, we are complementary polities. India is the largest democracy in the world. We believe in the same values of rule of law, of market economy, of predictability, of a rules-based system. So in a scenario where instability and uncertainty is increasing, it is obvious to me that India and Europe have to come closer together. And that is why describing this India-EU FTA, my Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that this is a partnership for global good. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, but in every relationship between, let's say, a marriage, between a husband and wife, there are good things and there are also not so good things. Now we were focusing before on positives and ways we can come together. But what are, maybe in your view, you've been here for 1 year already, so you maybe already seen what are the obstacles of India and Slovenia coming more together in a business manner?
Well, good question. I don't see any obstacles per se. I think this is, I'm talking here about India and Slovenia. The relationship is a net positive for both sides. The challenge, however, is the way I see it, that there is a lot of awareness about the India story. But there is perhaps not enough understanding of what the India opportunity means for Slovenian businesses. And that is where I think the challenge lies, and for people like us in the embassy to bridge that gap. In my interactions with the business community in Slovenia, we are trying to drill down this aspect that India is an opportunity. India, in fact, at the risk of hyperbole, India is a once in a generational opportunity for Slovenia for unlocking future growth. I mean, I have already mentioned about the rise of India and what it means for Slovenia. So what we are doing on the ground as the embassy is to trying to bridge that gap, to bring the latest information into the hands of Slovenian decision makers. Just few months ago, we have now started producing this bulletin which goes out in Slovene language to all decision makers in business and in government every 2 months. And this is bringing the best of Indian opportunity in different sectors to the attention of the Slovenian businesses. Another initiative that we have taken, and I'm happy to tell you that in the next few months, we will, in collaboration with the Slovenian Chamber of Commerce, we will launch the Slovenia-India Business Council. That is something that we believe will be a very important platform to present as a gateway to the Slovenian businesses to convert that interest into better understanding and that better understanding into concrete cooperation opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very good idea. How does, like, we are a part of Slovenia, is part of the Eurozone and part of the EU. And India is such a big country, such a big economy. For instance, just to give you a little bit of perspective, when I talk to Chinese businessmen, because China is also a big economy, a big country, and I pose them this question: Slovenia is so small and China is so big, what have you to gain from us? And they say that China never looks at the country how big it is, but it looks at the other factors when they are choosing their partners. I know how well are they developed, how good are the cultural ties. How does India, which is also such an enormous country, see Slovenia, and does it see as an important partner, and in which ways does it see it as an important partner?
No, so for us, Slovenia, apart from the fact that we are very old friends, even before the independence of Slovenia, as far as people-to-people ties are concerned, our peoples have been friends for several decades before that. But even discounting that background, we see Slovenia as one of our valued partners in Europe. Even in the context of the European Union and Europe-wide discussions, I can tell you that Slovenia plays a very important, a very positive and a very constructive role for deepening India-Europe engagements in a wider sense. So we value that, and we believe that Slovenia may be small by number or by territory, but it's an advanced economy. We recognize the strengths that Slovenia has in advanced R&D, for example, in advanced research, in cutting-edge technology, and there is a lot to learn for both of us from each other. So yes, size is not the only consideration, and we consider Slovenia as one of our very important partners. And since you mentioned Slovenia, I might also mention, if you look at the location of Slovenia, so the port of Koper, Luka Koper in Slovenia, frankly acts as the gateway to the entire Central Europe, not just to Slovenia. In fact, this is something that we are always telling our business community in India. Luka Koper is the largest container port on the Adriatic Sea, and a lot of Indian exports to Slovenia, not just to Slovenia but to other countries in Central Europe, also come through Luka Koper. So Koper and Slovenia can also, for example, play a very important role in the emerging discussions on India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or IMEC. I'm happy to again mention that we have had some initial discussions with the management of Koper, and I am very confident that going forward we can enhance and strengthen the shipping links between ports in India and Koper, and that will have a direct benefit to trade and commerce.
Now if we turn to a big economy such as India's, and anything similar needs energy to grow. Right now we know the situation in the Middle East, and this has come to the forefront. On the other hand, Slovenia and Europe give much point to the green technology of green energy. Do you think that this part of the economy and of energy production is also something that India and Slovenia can build upon?
You mean the green tech?
Yeah, the green tech.
Oh yes, absolutely. Green tech is clearly one of the important areas of collaboration. India today, again, one of the areas that you can look at on how things have changed. India today is seen as a leader in deployment and development of clean energy. You would probably be aware, but I'm very happy to make a note of this point as well, that India was the first G20 country to achieve its Paris commitments. We have now achieved one of our revised targets for 2030, which is we have already achieved more than 50% of our installed capacity from non-fossil fuel sources. When it comes to solar or wind, we are among the world's largest. So that's an area which is of great interest to India. And again, given the rapidly expanding market of green tech in India, that itself is an opportunity for Slovenian businesses. Many Slovenian businesses have niche technologies in this business, and so I think that's a very obvious choice for greater collaboration.
But how, in your view, still we talk about green tech and renewables, but still a lot of our parts of our economies are dependent upon fossil fuels. And now with this situation in the Gulf, how will that impact India, which was a big importer of fuel, of fossil fuels? Now going forward, how will India diversify? What will it do in this regard?
Well, we are diversifying in various ways. Our energy policy rests on several pillars. We are unfortunately highly import dependent as far as fossil fuel and especially oil and gas is concerned. So our strategy has been to diversify our sources of of import of fossil fuel. We are consciously and continuously progressively greening our coal technology, so that the coal power that we produce using coal can be cleaner and cleaner as we go forward. And the third and most important part, and where Slovenia comes in, is that we have put in massive investments in green energy, solar energy, wind energy, and other forms of non-renewable forms of energy. So I think that's where the opportunity lies.
Maybe if we turn to the armaments industry, you know, Europe is rearming itself because of the conflict in Ukraine and deteriorating security issues. Now India has also quite a large armaments industry. Do you think that there could be potential in this regard of cooperation between the two countries?
Well, defense has not been a traditional area of collaboration between our two sides, but you are absolutely right. India is an emerging defense producer and exporter. In fact, Indian defense exports now go to about 100 countries. So that's an opportunity again, and we welcome Slovenia to source more defense related equipment from India.
Were there Indian manufacturers at the CDEC fair?
The last CDEC fair from India, there was no direct exhibitors from India, but I believe Indian products are increasingly well known, so we will continue to work on this.
If we turn to one question about the politics, India has been traditionally neutral in all crises. Even now between in the Ukraine, between US and China. How does India see itself in the latest conflict in Iran, and what is its role there?
Well, India stands, whether it is the Ukraine conflict or any other conflict in the world, has always been very consistent. We call for restoration of peace. We have called for a return to dialogue and diplomacy in the pursuit of peace. We have also called for respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity of all states, and more importantly, and since you asked, in the current scenario, protection of civilians. India has a very large number of Indians who are based in the Gulf region, and their safety and their security is of paramount interest to us.
Now India also plays an important role in the BRICS grouping. How do you see this group in the future? What kind of actually role does it want to play? And it is an important multipolar player. Do you think the world is going into that direction, which is BRICS' goal, so to speak?
I believe India and Europe both believe in multipolarity, and we believe that both India and Europe are very important parts of that multipolar world. As far as BRICS is concerned, we consider BRICS as a constructive platform for dialogue and development, particularly among the emerging economies of the world. We see this as a complement to the existing multilateral system. By the way, this year happens to be the 20th year of BRICS since its inception, and this year also happens to be India's turn to chair the grouping. This is India's chairship, and in that capacity India will be hosting the BRICS summit sometime later this year. And we hope that under our chairship, and we have identified a set of priorities: resilience, innovation, cooperation, and sustainability. And across all these domains, which are important not just for BRICS countries, but they are important for the wider world. So we hope that under our chairship we will be able to foster constructive discussions on all these critical pillars of cooperation for the wider benefit of the world.
So does India in this regard see itself maybe as a speaker of the global south?
Well, India does see itself as a very important part of the global south, and global south itself, we feel that the voice of the global south should be adequately reflected in the ongoing discussions across all the areas. We have taken the lead under Prime Minister Modi to convene some summits of the global south to collate the voice of the global south collectively, because it is very important that this large block of countries collectively known as the Global South, who are part of any solution that we want to global problems, and their voice should be first and foremost.
Okay, so maybe the last question, looking ahead, how would you like to see, what's your vision of relationship development between India and Slovenia, and what concrete steps are you hoping to achieve during your mandate?
Look, I see India-Slovenia relationship with a very healthy dose of optimism. I see this relationship as having only upsides and no downsides. For Slovenia, I already said this, India represents a once-in-a-generation opportunity for unlocking future growth. As a country, Slovenia is an advanced economy with very, very high capabilities across academia and research and technology. At the same time, Slovenia is facing demographic pressures, a slowing European economy, unstable world. In this context, joining hands with India can potentially unlock decades of growth for Slovenian economy and bring prosperity, not just to look at India as a market or to look at India as a source of products, but also to look at India as a source of highly qualified manpower. And that is something which I see is in short supply in this country. And so across all these areas, there is a value proposition there, which I'm quite confident that going forward, Slovenian politics and Slovenian businesses will embrace. For India, Slovenia represents a very important, a very valued, a very trusted partner in Europe, and we are committed to boost our relationship with Slovenia, not just on a bilateral basis, but also in the wider context of the India-Europe relations, which, like my Prime Minister said, is now entering into a golden phase. So taken together, I am very, very optimistic, and all that we need is vision to translate this potential into shared prosperity, but I am quite confident that we can do so.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for taking your time.
Thank you, my pleasure. Thank you, Aleš.